This episode of the What the FinTech podcast is sponsored by Experion Technologies. Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of What the FinTech, the podcast from the team behind FinTech Futures and the Banking Technology magazine. My name is Paul Hindle, editor of FinTech Futures, and for this episode we're joined by two distinguished guests, and they are Binu Jacob, CEO and MD of Experion Technologies, and Experion Technologies advisor Markus Ruetimann. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hey, hi Paul. Nice to see you.
Well, it's great to have you both here. So on the show this week, we'll be exploring the imperative need for financial services companies working in the asset management industry to accelerate their digital transformation initiatives, keep up with the rapid pace of change driven by emerging technologies and shifting customer demands. We'll dive into how Experion Technologies goes about helping its financial services clients with their transformation projects and the implementation of new tech, with a specific focus on asset management and some examples of successful use cases. And we'll also discuss the best strategies for businesses looking to upgrade their asset management tech and processes, the key benefits provided by emerging technologies such as AI within the space, and of course, what makes Experion Technologies stand out from the crowd and its next steps for growth. So, Binu and Markus, thanks so much for taking the time out to speak with us today. Just to get started, would you like to quickly let us know a bit more about yourselves and Experion Technologies as well? Maybe, Binu, we can start with you and then Markus.
Yeah, I'm the Managing Director and CEO of Experion Global and currently based in the UK, in London. My journey started with Experion about almost 20 years back, two decades back. We started off as a product company, a product engineering company for startups, and then using emerging technologies. And slowly we progressed to doing product engineering work for SMEs, small and medium segment customers, and progressed from there by 2019 to becoming a specialist provider of products and platform engineering services for enterprises. So that's where we have been currently. And this is very different from typical IT services vendors that you generally see, because there's a lot more responsibility, there's a lot more addiction, I would say, to the ROI that customers are looking at. Because when you're doing a product engineering work, it is the core business of customers that we are kind of enabling with digital transformation, tying up all the endpoints. And that's a big change for customers. And that's a change management, digitally transform with products and platforms. To give some examples, we are working with probably one of the top 5 automotive companies in the world, building platforms for them. For example, the EV charging platform for customers in the US and Canada is being built by us. All the new EVs for that particular customer is coming from us. The best run highway network in the world, they're using our services to build their asset management platform, running all their motorways. Likewise, one of the top insurance companies for their P&C insurance platform, we built it for them. Over a decade of work being done, continuously running their roadmap and so on and so forth. So I think there's a lot more responsible than typical software services work. It's not just, so there's a process to it. There is an ROI component to it. So we've got to work with the customers to help them monetize in the way they have built their business case. So I think that's a lot more responsibility on our shoulders. So I think, at a high level, that's where Experion has been, working from being a startup product engineering company for startups to doing it for enterprises and working with the biggest organization in the world. And we are tiny. We are not big as well. So there is a lot more access to all the leadership who will kind of work to the expectations of the customers. So that's at a very high level what we are.
Good. And just very briefly, I'm Markus Ruetimann. I'm a member of the advisory board of Experion Technologies. I've joined them recently to support their rapid growth in financial services here in the UK, where I'm based. I'm born and raised in Switzerland, Zurich. I moved from Zurich to Geneva to New York to London, where I'm now. And I've learned my trade as the former global chief operating officer of UBS Asset Management, Schroders, and Credit Suisse Asset Management.
Well, sounds great. And again, it's great to have you both here. And thanks for taking the time out to speak with us today. So I guess across the asset management industry then, building off what you said there, Binu, what are some of the key challenges facing companies there? And from the conversations you have with clients and potential clients, what are the top reasons driving their decisions to upgrade their asset management tech and processes?
Perhaps I can start with a brief synopsis of what I see in sort of my industry. And the short of it, Paul, is it's very simple. The digital future is built on technology, skill, and culture. So embracing technology in everything one does has definitely become integral of many firms' operating culture. And it's also evident that many boards and executive teams are being upskilled and frankly rejuvenated to ensure proper decision making from the top. So in-house technology and data science teams, and we see this here at Experion Technologies, are now selectively augmenting their teams basically by using specialist and agile tech partners. In some cases, this includes selective collaboration with FinTech firms, and in other cases, it includes digital engineering firms such as Experion Technologies. You ask about the priorities in asset management, and I would summarize them. There are many, of course, but I think the top 7 can be summarized as follows. I mean, the first one is obviously to advance the client experience, the visualization of data, encouraging self-service, so 24/7 that the client has access to, in effect, their data. It's their investment, it's their data. The second priority is to advance the depth and pace of investment management decision. This is where we, later on in our conversation, also will introduce the AI component, because I think that the biggest change in institutional asset management driven by AI will be across the investment management decision making. The analysis of structured and unstructured data, portfolio construction, portfolio optimization, portfolio implementation, of course, post reviews as well. The third priority is the acceleration of product development, from the idea to launching an investment trust or another vehicle to closing of it. And there, I think the challenges lie in the space of new assets being created, digital assets, cryptos, etc. And also a material change in industry where tokenization is taking hold, both of liquid and less liquid assets. Operational resilience is a very important priority for many boards and executive teams, namely the cybersecurity defenses, and also using technology to spot when data has been tampered with. And we all know, it takes a millisecond from going from 0 to 0 when your operational resilience has been compromised and you lose data. And, that's a totally different story as well for another podcast perhaps as well, how you can defend yourself, and more importantly, how your partners and your internal teams can curate a recovery and resilience plan that when it happens, and to you, because it's not an if, that you can respond appropriately. And then the other priorities are, again, obvious, selective automation, re-engineering or elimination of core processes, reduction of operating costs and risks. That's something which all firms are, challenging with, and strengthening and diversify the talent pools by augmenting, the teams internally through collaborative arrangements with external parties. I would cite those 7 priorities in the institutional asset management industry, but I think they're generic also for other parts of financial services and indeed other industry segments.
Excellent. So how are you helping your clients keep up with their digital transformation then when it comes to financial services? And can you give us some examples of some of the work you've been doing with your partners?
Okay, yeah, Paul. So when you talk about digital transformation, I think the component that needs to be understood in product engineering differently is that the domain understanding is pretty important, because unless otherwise you understand the business, of course, the product engineering lifecycle has to be understood well, and the outcome that they're looking at should be again understood well. So you can't do that unless otherwise you have both these components of domain and technology processes. So that's where we start. So we've got very focused attention to the BFSI, transport, retail, healthcare, and edutech. And digital transformation is about reaching the final endpoint. So tying up all the loose ends and making it more efficient is going to be the goal. And that's where the advantage comes for the customer. So now I can give you some of the examples where we have applied domain and processes to, take up projects again for large customers. So one of the customers that we're working with is building the most modern payment platform in the world, headquartered in the US, obviously also in the European region. They are very significantly present. They are trying to process payments in 100 countries in as many currencies and to do settlements and payments on the go. And we are talking about them becoming $1 billion business in turnover in the next 3 to 4 years, purely driven by this platform. So that's an example of the work that we are doing. Another example we've been working with for the last 10 years is to help build a product for an insurance ISV. They've been there in the business, and we've been working with them to build a modern platform. And that's been going on for the last 10 years, also helping them with the roadmap implementing. And this is not, it's a very, very highly responsible job. Now with AI coming in, obviously we are building those also into it. Another example that we've been working on is for a loan mortgaging company, which is probably one of the top 4 in the US. And we've been helping them with the loan origination and collections and so on and so forth. So these are some of the examples that I could quote where it's very critical for them to be both knowledgeable. When you're working over a few years, I'm saying close to a decade, you get to know the business expectations and so on, and also size the competition. And so all these are important while owning up the entire responsibility to run the roadmap and deliver the product to their expectations.
And given the rapid rate of technological change we're seeing at the moment, how difficult is it for companies to keep up, and how important is finding the right technology partner?
Well, that's a very difficult question, Paul, but with respect to keeping up with tech innovation, the key question really for all companies is whether they want to be a leader or a fast follower when it comes to using and or experimenting with new technologies. And, the topic of AI is a debate on an enterprise level, not just pockets of an organization. And we'll come back to that later on in our dialogue, but engaging with an external tech partner needs to take this into account, and collaborating with a reliable and experienced tech partner is obviously essential for the delivery of change, testing of new or upgrading software, etc. And above all, you really need to have the basis of sharing insights and experience. But the priorities, whether to be a leader or a fast follower, I think that's where the decision making actually starts. And it's not an easy one, because each company obviously has different ambitions, has different areas where they want to focus on and compete on with their equivalent competitors.
What advice would you give to financial services firms in terms of how they should be approaching their tech and innovation strategies then?
With caution, I think, is the obvious answer to that. But there's some obvious considerations. First of all, you need to be very clear about quantifiable outcomes, value for money. It is so often the case that, we get asked about helping clients, potential and existing clients, with their AI strategy. That is actually the wrong way to look at it. You have to look at the quantifiable outcomes you want to achieve, and then you choose technology, the solution for the technology. The second consideration is to be very clear about priorities: client, investment, product, business. What comes first, what comes second, etc. Because many companies are simply tempted to do everything at the same time and then fail in some of their projects. Thirdly, again, I'll say this as a former global chief operating officer: be prepared for success and failures. Celebrate success and learn from failures. And again, that is not just about projects, but it's also about the culture the senior management team in a particular company lives. And lastly, be prepared to diversify the internal skill pool with external expertise. So often I've come across firms in asset management who just felt that their internal skill pool is perfectly fine, responsive, okay in terms of cost and delivery. But actually, they were very much surprised, and pleasantly so, when they started to diversify and engage with external partners, particularly, obviously, people like Experion Technologies.
Excellent. And you touched on AI there. What are the latest advancements you're seeing there, and what are the key benefits of this tech when it comes to asset management?
In asset management, as I briefly mentioned before, I will see the most substantial benefits of AI in the management of investments, where AI tools will support fund managers in their allocation or asset allocation and stock selection decision-making. Very, very important matter. And, what do they do with AI already today? They can do fast screening of large amounts of data, be that structured data, numbers, or unstructured data, sentiments, which they capture from social media, for instance. They can easily accelerate due diligence on existing and new assets, and they can curate very quickly investment reports for internal or client consumptions, really. And of course, in the IT departments of asset managers, AI assists with the coding and software development. So very, very important tool to advance the asset management industry towards something which is much better for the client and for the managers of their assets.
And can you tell us a bit more about the inner workings of the Experion tech team then, and how you would typically go about working with clients to deliver new products and services?
Right. So as I said, when we get into product engineering, what we do is we have a two-pronged approach, which we call as explore, the X for Experion, explore and execute. Explore is primarily a discovery phase where we engage with the customers to understand, size it up, and ensure that their business case is validated with the technology, with the experience that we have around the world working in those domains. So that phase probably is a bit longer than typical the requirements as in the old world. So in this, what we do is we have something called the mind map, or we call the radial mind map, which talks about the functionalities and the release plans for the product, which will also look at the monetization element of it. So customers would say that they want all the features up front, but we will say, look, are you going to monetize it? And do you have enough budgets to sustain development and then wait to monetize it after everything is sorted out? No. So we advise them, it might become counterproductive for us in terms of the revenues, but we would go with the ROI model, and we would want them to be successful before they put all the dollars into it. So that is the explore phase where we kind of engage and then define the roadmap, refine the roadmap, and so on and so forth. And then we get into the user experience, primarily the UI UX, as we call it, primarily to ensure that the adoption is quite good, because if you build a product and then the adoption is bad, then it doesn't make any sense. So cultural sensitivities, all those things are defined upfront by the UI UX team coming in and supporting the whole explore process. And once we do that, once you finalize that there is certain amount of discipline in terms of the product becoming successful from an ROI standpoint, then we get into the execution phase. And so that's generally the model. And we have tools such as AHA, which is very specialized for product engineering compared to the typical, software development processes that we are exposed to. Primarily, it's not about loading the technology teams into it, but it's all about understanding the whole vision of the product, how it is pitched against competition, and whether our customer will have a lead in the market. So it's a typical partnership model that we do while we pursue the explore and execute model.
Great. And I guess what would you say companies are looking for in their tech partners at the moment then, and what is it that Experion Technologies is doing that others aren't?
Well, as a former global chief operating officer, I have collaborated with many external partners over the many years, and I found in principle that nimbleness is correlated to the size of a provider's talent pool, and thus favoring smaller rather than very big organizations. I think generically all clients are looking for what I would describe as the 3 T's: talent, depth of knowledge, skills, agility, technology, what solutions they have, and above all, trust. And I think that's a major consideration when you engage with an external party. The concept at Experion Technologies, which I endorse wholeheartedly, is really what they want to do is building stepping stones for the client's success. And they have 3 principal objectives, which I very much subscribe to as a former global COO. Namely, they want to solve clients' most pressing and operational and technological issues. They want to empower clients to gain, obviously, a competitive advantage through the help of Experion Technologies. And I think above all, to partner with the clients for shared long-term success. So this is not just a contract where you look at the P&L, but actually you want to have shared and long-term relationships, and you can grow together with the client as the client grows and diversifies its products, its services, etc. So the 3 T's, talent, technology, and trust, are very much lived at Experion Technologies.
Excellent. Sounds great. And I guess to finish things off, then, what's next for Experion Technologies in general in the near-term future, and what are your next steps for continued growth?
Paul, I think we are only at the tip of the iceberg in terms of product engineering. So if you look at the market, the TAM, or total addressable market today for product engineering, is about $1 trillion. So we are just about, under 2,000 people specialized in these verticals and the processes. So I think what we are trying to do is we are trying to expand this product engineering market to wherever, currently we are present between the US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan. So these are the markets. I think there is a lot of learnings to be taken from, let's say, a retail customer that we are enabling in Australia, to be taken to UK market and so on and so forth. So I think there is a lot more expansion possible in these potentially product engineering areas where we can take on a lot many more enterprise customers. So we see that a potential 30 to 40% growth is possible, and we don't want to be on steroids either, because this is not something that you can do in volumes just like that. We need to be very careful in terms of the talent that we have within the company. So there's a lot of care and caution we exercise while bringing in talent, especially in the product engineering business. So building that and growing at about 30 to 40% is possible. Expanding geographically and also repeating the domain stories that we've done in one geography to the next, one enterprise to the next. So we might be doing a logistics business case, which can also apply. The technology companies can apply in the financial world as well. So I think that's the way we see growing, and at the pace that we are currently doing, and we are seeing the momentum grow faster. We see a lot more demands from enterprises to come to a mid-sized player like us, because they see the value that we bring to the table in terms of the ROI that Markus is mentioning. I think that is where we can invest millions of dollars in products, but will those products remain the core engine of the organizations to run their operations and ensure that they have better revenue advantage? So I think all these are factors while building products and platforms of consequence. And today, digital is all. So every business is digital, and for that you need to have very smart products and very smart platforms being built. So I think that's where I see. So we see a lot more opportunity to use the product engineering story, the UX, user experience efficiencies, and then also data. Data and AI definitely is going to be the engine that's going to power all the platforms in the future. So we see a very bright future for companies like us when compared to typical large players where their focus is on BAU and probably maintenance, which is not what we do. So we are very specialized in, and there is a lot of respect that we see in the market working with all the big enterprises.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Binu and Markus, for chatting with us today. To close out the podcast, we have our now infamous FinTech jail. So this is where we ask for an industry term, buzzword, or trend that you've seen or heard enough of, or of course you can advocate to free one of the previously incarcerated terms. So what would your selection be for this week?
Well, the term to be jailed, Binu and I would like to propose agile delivery. And why is that? I mean, agility in delivering or producing outcomes is no longer a matter of choice, really. And the methodology of delivering software in an agile fashion is already a well-oiled machine currently. So let's jail it forever. In terms of release, we are proposing green bonds. And the main reason for that is when you look at the last 7 years, the growth in green bonds has been substantial, from about $500 billion to about $3.5 trillion at present. And there's no reason why the growth in this particular asset class cannot go even further as green initiatives across the globe take hold. So we want green bonds to be released.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm more than happy to add agile delivery to the jail this week. And yeah, I would be surprised if somebody comes on the show to break that one out again anytime soon. But that one is going in. And like you say, green bonds will be released from the jail as well this week. And for now, Binu, Markus, thank you so much again for joining us for the podcast today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks a lot for your questions. And it was great spending time with you.
Well, that's all we have time for this week. Thanks, of course, to Binu and Markus for joining me. As for FinTech Futures, you can find us online at fintechfutures.com, and be sure to follow us on LinkedIn to keep up with the latest FinTech news. If you like this podcast and our other episodes, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favourite podcasting service to get notified about future episodes. Thanks as well to Arama for editing this podcast. You can check them out at arama.tv. And as always, thank you very much for your support, and we'll see you soon for another episode of What the FinTech. But until then, goodbye.